what's your expectations of worship music as we switch topic?
That's a question.
Music or music by Christians, or just worship music?
Just in general?
I mean, I don't even know anymore because it's all it's all mixed in. Sometimes it's grey, sometimes it's black, sometimes it's white, sometimes it's purple, sometimes it's rainbowed. It's just when we go to play worship music, or we go to a worship playlist, or we listen to our favorite quote unquote Christian artists, what do we expect to get out of that?
Okay. So the one I'm going to say is this, right? Christians have had an issue with music for a long time. The roots, Lucifer, son of the morning, all that goes around when you think about music, right? When it comes to worship music, I honestly do try to keep an open mind, because I'm almost with a mindset of, how can I say? I'm really trying to put my words carefully, right? But if we are allowed to listen to music and worship, then if we're allowed to listen to music, then worship music can be any type of music. Worship music can be rock. Worship music can be rap. Worship music can be choirs. It can be plain chant. It can be hymns. It's based on that ethos. I don't think worship music should just be one particular type. I don't like when people say, well, that's got a sick beat, it can't be worship music, because if we are allowed, no, but you know what I mean? Yeah. And like, if it's rock and it's heavy metal, it can't be worship music. No, if we are allowing music, we can then allow worship music to be any kind, because we are people of different kinds. There are different people who listen to different things and just prefer different sounds, and the message should still be the same. The message should still be uplifting. The message should still be spreading the word, but the instrumentation, the way it's conducted in terms of whether it's rap or singing or whatnot, should be whatever it needs to be.
Yeah, I have to completely agree with you on that one, Linda. Like, it's so it's so versatile, and music, we'll always be writing songs because music's just constantly just so innately human, and there's so many different possibilities, and like, for me, worship music is about the heart of the person worshipping, but the person writing it. When there's also like corporate worship, which tends to be more what I think why we can sometimes fall into the trap of thinking this has to be a worship song in this kind of style and this kind of genre because we have it at church, because simply for the logistical thing that actually to get people all singing together, sort of regular rhythm and kind of melody is easier to kind of for a congregation to sing along to, and that's like the logistics of that. But that's a logistical thing. That's not a heart thing. So if you love heavy metal and you want to worship Jesus to that because you love Jesus, then great. If you love classical music and just sit there and soak in the Holy Spirit while doing it, that's also worship.
You are spot on there with the easiness of it. So I used to teach, well, I still do, but COVID, worship seminars and things like that. And people would always ask, why is every Christian song 4 chords is the classic, Why does every church song sound the same, this, that, and you're spot on. It's because it's meant to be easy, because you've got people in that congregation who cannot sing. We've all been next to them. We all know, all the ones that try and harmonize and can't. We've all been there, right? But the point is,
it's great, by the way. It's great.
That's my point. It's amazing because, as you said, it's the heart. That's the heart. And so your job as the worship leader is to make that as simple as possible for that person, right? Because if you've got it in some ridiculous key that no one else can sing, and you're basically performing, which can happen at conferences, and that's a whole different story because of, this is a whole different podcast for another day. But generally speaking, it's got to be as simple as it is for the congregation. And that's why as you said, that's why church music is like that. But that doesn't mean anything. And I think actually talking about music in general, right, there's a big culture at the moment in a lot of different genres of swearing, of talking about sex, of talking about really inappropriate stuff that's not biblical, right? But you say, well, it's secular music, that's okay. Well, we can have an influence there by writing music that doesn't talk about that. And it doesn't have to be shine, Jesus, shine, or anything like that. I don't think that's going to get in the charts, quite bluntly, not today. Yeah. I mean, that would be amazing if it did. That would be hilarious, but that's not going to get in the charts. But a song that doesn't have any, that follows Christian principles can start to have an influence, right? And you're hoping that, well, why does this song have that? And then you open up those conversations. I think that's quite important. And Linda, on what you said about, we've always struggled with it. This is a really strange thing. Music and sort of history, sort of my thing. Years ago, the church banned a certain interval chord being played.
Yeah.
Called it the devil's interval. It's a tritone because music at that time was becoming unholy, and they decided that chord sounded too nice and too funky, so they banned it. Which is mental, but it's been a struggle for a long time. Is, well, how do we keep it holy and on track? And at the end of the day, we're in a world where, well, not every music producer is thinking like that. So how do we combat that? Well, we can't just come in there and say, well, we're gonna reach the most people if we get a number one, and we're gonna do it by singing "Our God Is Greater." That's not going to go down well with secular people. It's just not. Trust me, I've tried it at gigs, doesn't work. I've been there, but there are other ways to just hope that you put that one step, in the right direction.
Yeah, I think one of the things that my job is I'm an actor, and when I'm part of this little community of Christian artists, whether they're active musicians, whatever. And one of the things that we really talk about is if you're working in that industry, so that's your job, so you're producing music, you're making music, whatever, that actually, in order to have an impact in the secular world and reach people and hopefully spread some of that light and positivity and joy that God's calling you to do, you actually need to be excellent at what you do. So your music needs to be really good, which is kind of weird because I think when I first heard that, I was like, that's, for me, coming from a kind of a church background, like, as long as you're trying, that's really good. But actually, if you're trying to, sort of break into this secular industry where it's all about sexing it up and actually making something that's really good that people want to listen to, but there's also talks about light and hope and Jesus, you need to reach an excellent standard, which I don't know where I'm going with this point. It just popped into my head when you started talking.
No, I think you're right.